Hey, it's Coach Jamila. So we are here with the final step of this series, talking about how to begin working on yourself when you're ready to be in a new relationship after heartbreak or after an unwanted divorce. So just to review where we've come so far, because I've had you do a kind of a lot of things. You might be like, okay, now what? Bring it all together. Okay, so let's review, and we're going to tie it into what you're going to do in this final step. So in the first video, I talked about how you needed to make a list of the qualities that you wanted in a potential husband. Because again, this whole process is for those that are looking for a new relationship and to be married again to the right person, and not make the same mistakes. So step one was we needed to get clear on what you want in a husband. And as I mentioned, that list is going to be something that's a work in progress, because you're going to continue to add to it as things pop in your mind, as you get to know you better through this process. Because if you've been married for over 10 years, or if you got married young, chances are your knowledge of yourself, who you really are, what you really like, what you really want, you're still figuring that out, because you kind of jumped into a relationship and you've been about this man or this person, for all these years, and not about you. And so this is really, you're changing and growing in a lot of different ways. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. And that's why we're just focusing on this one specific focus, as far as you wanting to become whole and better, because you want to move forward into a new relationship, but you want to, get that off on the right foot so that you can experience success. So we started off that list with, you kind of saying, okay, this is what I don't want, to help you figure out what you do want. And so that paper needs to be one list. So, but it should no longer include what you don't want. So yes, you're doing a lot of handwriting on paper, and I believe in the power of writing things down with a pen and a paper. I get it. We can type things on our phone. We can type things on our computer, but there is something psychological about when you take a pen and you write it down. And yes, I write in cursive. I don't know why they don't teach that in school anymore, but it makes writing a lot faster and easier. But you want to handwrite this down. So if you don't have a journal, I would suggest you get a notebook, a brand new notebook, just simply for this whole process of you going through this, okay? So your list right now might be kind of disjointed. I want you to make sure it's on a clean sheet of paper, your list, and only what you want. Now, if you want to put in parentheses or an asterisk, maybe why, like, well, I don't want this, that's okay. I mean, it's your list, but I really want you to just keep it to what you want, keeping it positive. And specifically, when you write this list out of what you want in your husband, I want you to write it like this. I love knowing that my ideal husband or my ideal mate is X, Y, and Z, or does X, Y, and Z, or makes me feel X, Y, and Z. Like, for example, I love knowing that my ideal husband brings out the best in me. Okay? So that's how I want you to rework that list. And again, make sure you leave, several empty pages behind it so that you can continue to add to it. But there's a reason why I want you to write it this way. And I'm going to get to that at the end of this video, or, as a part of the process. But that's what I want you to do with that section of what we've discussed. Okay? Now, the next section was we went over your negative traits and qualities and characteristics, pulling from, what people have said to you, and then how you feel about yourself, what you recognize, you might need to change. And then the assignment yesterday was for you to look up YouTube videos and find a book on Amazon that really spoke to those particular issues. Okay. So I hope that you did that. And I would be curious to find out what you kind of have learned, maybe if you feel like sharing, you can feel free to comment, like what quality did you pick up on yourself, maybe what you found about it that you thought was helpful or useful in changing your position and view, and feeling like, okay, I can change and shift and see this in a different way about myself, or fix this about myself. So that was what you need to start doing with that list. And we just picked the top 3. And like I said, sometimes one thing encompasses several things. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is that book that you found on Amazon, if it really speaks to you and you're like, yeah, this is it, go ahead and buy it. Or download it to your Kindle. I know Kindle sometimes is cheaper, or you can get a free trial or whatever. I'm not sure, but who cares how much it costs? Because, it's a hardcover book. It's not that expensive, But I recommend you get the hardcover because, again, we're going back to paper and pen. If you're going through a book that's really about personal development or helping you address some quality or characteristics, no doubt it's going to have exercises in it or asking you questions, and you want to write in it, you want to highlight it, you want to put little tabs in there to come back to this point. It's really the beginning of you starting to work on yourself, and it's like a workbook on working through this particular quality or characteristic, changing it. And so I want you to start there. And reading because you want to is so much different than like when you're in school and you're being forced to read. So this is reading to clear up something about yourself that's been holding you back in some way or that hasn't produced good results for you. So it's exciting. It's a good thing. You should feel good about it. You shouldn't be like, oh, I don't want to read. No, you should be like, yeah. And find the book that speaks to you. Like I said, I didn't give you a title. So it's what you found that speaks to you that you feel like, yeah, this really addresses what's going on with me. And start there. And then simultaneously, keep, looking at stuff on YouTube, keep Googling, whatever. Just keep working on, those top 3 big things. And once you kind of feel like you've worked through those and mastered those and you're like, I get it. And like I said, the shift can happen like that. It doesn't have to take forever. Then move on to the next thing. Move on to the next big thing. Work through the list. Okay? The other thing I want to talk about that I did not mention so far is if your goal is to be in a successful, happy marriage, then you need to hang around women that have that viewpoint as well. Not ones who are desperate, not ones who are bitter, but ones who have healed enough to not have a negative or bitter attitude towards men, towards marriage, towards love, towards relationships, and also not women who think that they are the sun and the moon and the stars and, and he better this and he better that. That's why we yesterday talked about what you're bringing to the table, because we want you to also be focused on your good qualities. But we started with your bad ones too, because sometimes we get confused and think we don't have any bad qualities and he's supposed to come to the table with all this and carry our baggage, and that makes no sense. We don't want him bringing all this stuff to the table, garbage and stuff, and not just baggage, garbage, but we want to dump that on somebody else. No, we're going to clean up our own mess, okay, so that we become whole and better, and then that dude that's on that level, that's the one we're dealing with, okay? We're not dealing with the dude we're dealing with the dude up here, the man, okay? And so you need to hang around women who have a positive and healthy emotional mentality about that, who are going to encourage you in this endeavor to, stay positive, continue working on yourself. Now, that's not to say that you need to try to become something you're not. No, the fact of the matter is, none of us are perfect, and there is always room for improvement, always room for growth. And if you want better, you have to become better, because like attracts like. So if you want more, you have to become what it is that you want. Do you see what I'm saying? If you want that, like, that's why we put the list down. This is what you want, so you can see on paper, this is the kind of man I want. So if he knocked on my door, would I feel like, oh, yeah, I wanted him, but I'm not really good enough for him, or, oh goodness. And mind you, sometimes not feeling good enough is not related to the fact that we're not good enough. Sometimes it's related to we have some negative inner beliefs. And that's different than us actually having some bad qualities and traits that we need to change. And we'll talk about that, in another video, okay? So just to review, husband list. I love knowing that my ideal husband is XYZ, does XYZ, that list, okay? Second, start working through your list of your characteristics and qualities that are negative that you need to change in order to just feel better about yourself and to feel whole, right? And to go ahead and buy that book, from Amazon or wherever you buy books. But that first step, towards you working on yourself and really addressing some very serious issues about yourself. For me, just to give you an example, the book that I read that really helped me a lot was Codependent No More. My friend had recommended it to me in a roundabout way. She was talking about somebody else, but when she mentioned it, I said, And that was very helpful to me to understand how I really was functioning in a relationship and how that wasn't beneficial for me or the person that I was with, and how that needed to change. And once I understood and saw, whoa, this is the dynamic, it was like a light bulb went on, and I would have never seen it or recognized it about myself if I hadn't read that book. And then once I understood that about myself, it allowed me to understand so many other things that helped me to make the shift and the adjustment and understand how I could be better and behave better in a relationship, be normal, as it were, and healthy, in a functional way in a relationship, So that's my point, is you want to find that book and just start there. Because all we're talking about is just getting started. It's like, where do I start? But guess what? Now you have it all written down. So you have a plan of action. You know what you're working on first. And as you work through that, you're going to start feeling good about yourself. Like, yeah. And check it out. The better you feel about yourself because you're just becoming a better person, the more that list is going to tweak, because you're like, well, hold up now, because your standards are getting higher, because you're starting to understand, wait a minute, so he's got to, okay, so now, yeah, when he comes knocking on the door, you're like, okay, well, maybe I don't know, maybe I've added a few more things to my list, so you need to go, and it's going to be the next guy, or whatever. So I don't want to make this video too long. I think it already is, but those are my suggestions. Now, what you're going to do with your husband list is you are going to read that out loud to yourself every day. Now, that sounds crazy, but this is because you're getting clear on what you want. Listen, if you don't want to settle for Mr. Right now and you want Mr. Right, you got to know what he looks like and who he is. And how can you know that if you're unclear about what you want and about what qualities and traits he has to have? So you're going to remind yourself every day. Think of it as like how you do your affirmations. You're just going to look in the mirror. I love knowing that my ideal husband is this, that, and the other thing. And start talking to yourself about who this man is and what he's like and getting excited about it. And I love knowing he's so this and so that. So that when he shows up, you'll recognize him, okay? Or when some guy shows up and it's not what you're looking for, you're going to know, sorry. So the more it's imprinted in your mind and your brain, you'll recognize it when you see it, and then you'll know definitely when it's not the way that you want to go, okay? So that's what you do with that list. Continue working through your list of bad qualities and characteristics and negative things that you need to change about yourself. And then lastly, make sure that you really check your association, check your tribe, check who you're hanging around with to see if they are really going to support you and help you move forward, if this is what you really want. You want to be in a new relationship. And if you healed and come through the process and you don't want to be in a new relationship, you want to be single, that's fine. This video isn't for that. This video is for women that want to move forward and get remarried, okay? And so I hope that this has been beneficial and helpful to you. I do, again, want to invite you to come join my private Facebook group, Get Real and Heal, Life After Divorce, how to find love again, how to do that, where we get into a little more depth about some of these things we've talked about in the video. Like I said, I'm not going to get into too much detail because I'd be talking forever. But if you're curious or interested in working with me one-on-one, being coached through this process on a personal level, you can also visit my website at coachjamila.com. But again, we talk about all this in my group. So I invite you to start there to join my free Facebook group. And I'll put the link in the comments below. All right. So I hope that this process has been helpful to you. I hope it wasn't too convoluted for you. If it is, just comment, ask a question, DM me, whatever. I'll clarify it. But again, if you come to the private Facebook group, it'll all make sense. Okay. So thank you for watching. Please click like and subscribe and the little bell for the notifications so you don't miss any new videos. And I look forward to seeing you here. All right.